Welcome back to the Unstuck movement. I'm your host, Rob Z. This platform was created to help you find a way to break through those chains that have been holding you back in your life, personally or professionally. Today, we have the incredible Anastasia Gerali with us on the podcast, and we're going to be talking about healing in this episode, alignment, transformation, how to break through trauma in your life. And I love to start off with a powerful question right off the bat, Anastasia. And I'm curious how you respond to this question. How can someone identify limiting patterns that are keeping them stuck, holding them back in their life? How can they identify those?
Thank you, Rob. What a great question. It's pretty obvious, to be honest. I think it's something that your soul recognizes. Whether you're in denial or not, you can see a pattern that is repeating itself. The bit that people often can't identify is when the pattern looks different in different areas of their life. So just for the purpose of this podcast, let's say we're always stuck in a certain area. I'm always stuck romantically. I'm always stuck professionally, financially. That's a pattern. Why do I unconsciously choose to remain stuck? And stuckness could look like procrastination. It could look like fear. It could look like avoiding doing the thing that you know is going to change something because what you currently know is more familiar than the unknown.
That's a great answer. And as you were just starting to say that, I was thinking to myself, like, where do I get stuck? So I was trying to identify, like, if I could see a limiting pattern for me. And I know one of the things that pops up over and over again is I get stuck on finishing, quote unquote, like big tasks, like something that is out of my wheelhouse that needs done. I will procrastinate on finishing that thing, right? And I've asked myself so many times, like, why do you do this? And it's like a fear of getting started or not knowing where to start. So what I've taught myself is you have to get the ball rolling. No matter what that is, you need to take like some sort of action and it'll start to change everything.
So my question to you would be do you have a problem starting the task or finishing the task?
I have a problem starting the tasks. I noticed for me, the hardest, so this is in everything too, right? So this goes into, and I think a lot of people struggle in this area. Getting started is usually like, well, how do I start? Like starting a podcast. People, I've worked with people who want to start a podcast and they're like, I don't know what to name it. What do I say? I'm like, you just have to do something, right? You have to begin. And that's the hardest part. So for me, it's like this getting the ball rolling and building that momentum, right? It's like the inertia. We've got to get momentum to make things happen. In order to have momentum, you've got to do something.
I hear you. For me, it has been different. I've never had a problem starting things. I have had a little wobble with seeing them through to completion. So it's interesting how I'm a great starter, but not a great follow-througher. Whereas what you're saying is that many people will find different reasons and excuses to not get started at all. And many people that are in business and entrepreneurs, or at least want to be entrepreneurs, will often use that as an excuse that they will spend a year on branding before they actually even launch anything.
Yeah. And it is, I think partially for me, it's like knowing that I'm going to have to do a bunch of stuff once I start keeps me from starting, right? So it's like, okay, I know I got to do, like, I don't need to go through the laundry list of a million things I got to do. I just got to do the first thing. And so if I remind myself of that, that helps.
Yeah.
So really good insight. So before we go any further, I just want to welcome everybody to the Unstuck movement. I created this platform because I wanted some true testimonies of breakthrough, real life examples of people who have found amazing breakthroughs in their lives to prove that it's possible for you, the listener. We're sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy. Check out connectedleadersacademy.com. And if you're somebody who has been really interested in starting your own platform, say you want to start a podcast, you want to have a platform that brings lasting impact to people's lives, makes incredible connections for you in your business and personal life, I would recommend launching your own podcast, and I can help you do that with the Podcaster Pro Academy. Join the waitlist right now at robzwentz.com. Today with us is Anastasia Gerali, the creator of Rapid Alignment Therapy, a revolutionary method combining somatic healing, psychospiritual alignment, and brain repatterning. There we go. After overcoming multiple hardships, she now helps women break free from limiting patterns and align with their divine potential. So, Anastasia, what led you to doing this line of work? What had you stuck that, because our mess comes with a message. I think you're in the message portion of what you're doing. What was the mess that was keeping you held back?
To be honest, it was in a very short space of time in 2016. My marriage ended. I burnt out. I had to close my business and file for bankruptcy. And I was left broke, divorcing, homeless, and really, really, really depressed and questioning everything, questioning my existence even. And it was in a very, very dark moment that I had given up asking for answers. I had given up praying because I just was at such a dead end with being unable to receive any guidance. And it was on a very, very dark day. Mentally, my thoughts were going to places that were not great, were not good at all, were not very supportive. And I got like a lightning bolt insight that just said, try a different formula. And that curiosity of what does that mean was the opening to the work that I do today. Just try a different formula, because the formula that I'm using for life, the formula that I'm using for finances, the formula that I'm using for relationships is not working for me. And I thought that I was using the formula that seemed to be working for everybody else but me. And it was only when I started to explore what that could mean that things started to shift for me. First and foremost, internally. And then, of course, the material world is the last one that follows externally as well.
I've never heard somebody put it in the sentence of like finding a new formula. I love using the word formula. That's a good way of putting that. How do you find a new formula? How did you find a new formula?
I think I took a lot of different roads and a lot of different paths in order to be able to find something that felt right for me. So when we're talking about formulas, we're talking about a science, and a science is not like an art. Art is a refinement. Science is about trying all the different formulas to find one that gives you the outcome that you're looking for. Whereas art is, you've got something that works, but you want to make it work better. And I was in my science phase, and I think that I still am to a very big degree, because there is no one size fits all for everybody. And that is something that I make sure to reiterate to everyone. Just because something is working for somebody else doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you, because there's too many variables, which is why you have to give yourself some compassion, some grace, and some room for failure, because failure is how we get to improvement, and improvement is how we finally get to the unique formula that supports my soul path, my life vision, and supports my growth and my self-actualization. That's ultimately what the divine wants for all of us. The divine wants for absolutely all of us to reach our highest potential, and the support is always there. We're just so stuck with formulas that aren't working, or we're so stuck with maybe even not taking certain steps that we need to take, that we can't see the support that is always, always provided for us.
Yeah, it's really good advice. Really well said. We live in a time also where everybody's trying to sell you their formula, right? And it's interesting because I've purchased a lot of online courses, and some of them have helped me, other ones have not. And I kind of reached a point of like, well, why would somebody else's thing work 100% for me? I might get really good ideas from somebody else and how they did what they did, but I'm really only going to excel when I find my path. And so I think modeling is really helpful, right? So modeling what somebody else does, if it worked for them, can help to draw you in the right direction.
Mhm.
But like you said, it's got to be your journey, and
Mhm.
only you know your journey, right?
Mhm.
So it's really good to step back from that and understand that people might have your best interest in mind when they want to help you,
Mm.
but that's their experience, not yours. And you're going to need to find
Yeah.
your own path. And I think so often we can get stuck in listening to other people way too
Yeah.
much. Is that what you fell into for a period of time? And
Mm.
how did you start to figure out, okay, these things aren't, maybe they're helping a little bit, but they're not exact of what I need. How did you find what you needed?
For me, it's always about having your North Star, your lighthouse. So along the way, there will be different teachers, there will be different mentors that can help you with a part of your formula. Maybe they can give you a part of theirs that fits into yours. But ultimately, the clarity, the absolute clarity that you need to have for yourself is your life vision. What is my life vision? What is my soul path? And for me, this falls under 4 pillars. Number 1 is your connection to higher self. You have to have a relationship, a dialogue with a higher power, with higher source. The second pillar is your creative expression and your career. I love when we can do creative expression and career together, just as you're doing, rather than have them separate and make the career different to my talents and my hobbies. The third pillar is aligned relationships, because we are societal creatures. We need to have our community. So the people that we surround ourselves with will absolutely play a very big role in who we are and who we become. Aligned relationships, your divine union, your partner, the person that you choose to do life with. And then the fourth pillar is a lifestyle that supports these pillars, that supports your soul path. So if you don't have a direct line to source, if you don't have a dialogue, if you're not in a relationship where you are being guided by your true North Star, then it's going to be very easy for you to take detours and follow other people's North Star. But as we've said, those formulas aren't necessarily going to be the ones that fit perfectly for you. And I think many people, I actually think it's been designed, this life journey has been designed that we've been given free will. So free will can be a blessing and a curse, that we do get to choose to walk different paths, only to discover that these ones didn't fit. And I need to find my way back to me. I need to find my way back to my soul path.
Yeah, really true. The free will is a gift. Well, everything in life is a gift and a curse, depending on how you look at it, right? Because free will is amazing. We get to choose, but at the same time, that you have to make the right choices, and you've got to really pay attention to make the right choices. I think that this theme comes up a lot, but the things that are correct in life are simple. Doesn't mean they're easy, but they're usually pretty simple. I'm curious, before 2016, what were you doing for a living? What was your job that you got fired from?
I was working as a designer up until 2014, because 2014 was when I launched my first business.
Okay.
And I got fired for having a bad attitude. And I think I had a bad attitude because I didn't I didn't belong where I was. I didn't belong where I studied. I didn't belong where I was working. Even though I enjoyed design, I was working in advertising. I wanted something deeper. I wanted something more meaningful than just creating ads for companies that I don't really believe in, that I don't really support, that don't really align with my life vision and my purpose. And it's not that I had a clear image at the time, but I think I was resentful for being out of alignment. And I was probably resentful to myself, but that projected onto everybody else as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of, this is and also a reoccurring theme, and it's really true, right? You were doing something that you were good at, and probably everybody else, it's like a great career. Like, oh wow, Anastasia's got this great career. She loves what she's doing. She's good at what she's doing. And we can get really trapped in life in doing something that we're good at, but we don't necessarily love. We don't necessarily, like you said, combining your passion and your profession. If you can put those together, my Lord, that's the sweet spot. Like that's the spot you want to be in my opinion, in your opinion. Some people don't feel that way, and that's okay. But if I'm going to spend lots of time on something, I want it to be something that, because it's really hard to split your time between your passion and your profession. That's hard. So doing both,
and your family, if you're going to choose to have a family as well, I mean, there's another split happening.
So you're splitting like a million times. And so many times you run into a place of like, holy cow, I'm so burnt out. Why am I at this place? You found yourself very burnt out. Was there like I know, pivotal moments are usually like a million little things happening until things finally break, and then there's a big thing that breaks. Was there something big that kind of broke that was like, oh, it's time to go?
Yeah, I would say that it was the breakup of my marriage. That was the straw that broke the camel's back before everything fell apart. Because up until then, I'd been working really hard at just juggling everything and just surviving. But I was in a very unaligned marriage, and it was a very unhealthy, abusive relationship. And I didn't know that I could leave it. I didn't know that was an option for me. And then he left me eventually for someone else. And that at the time felt like such a curse. And I was such a victim in that whole little triangle. And now I see that that was my gift. That was my get out of jail card free. So that was the first painful yet pivotal moment that would help me to wake up to the real me, to the real life that I choose, not the one that I'm creating by default.
It's really good. I actually, just before this podcast, was having a conversation with a client, and somebody who was kind of toxic that they had as an employee recently quit. And the client was like super bummed about it because that person had been there for a couple of years, and my client had dumped a ton of time and money into them, but they were toxic. And I was like, this looks bad, but it's actually a blessing because they did you a favor because of how things that came out after this person left were like, holy cow, she felt like she didn't even know this person. And I was like, so it's actually a good thing they're gone. It might be difficult. You might be frustrated because you put a lot of time and effort into them, but at the same time, they're doing you a favor. And it's such a great perspective to have, but can be hard to see in the moment. You said that you didn't even know that you could get out of it. What does that mean? Like you didn't even know you could get out of your marriage?
It was never an option to me. I was raised to be a good girl, and good girls don't get divorced. So that wasn't part of my reality, the option to get divorced. So I was trying to do everything else to keep the relationship together, even though it was extremely toxic and extremely unhealthy for me and most likely for him as well. So yeah, it's funny how when you're so blocked, you can't see the solutions that are so obvious. And it's really interesting that you shared your client's story as well. There's actually a psychological kind of science behind that women tend to have difficulty walking away from something or someone that they've invested a lot of time into, and men have a problem walking away from something or someone that they've invested a lot of money into. There's a value exchange there.
Well, it makes sense. It's like, why would it's like I've put so much of my time, if I drop this person or the situation, then I lose all of this, right? Perceived time, but you're losing it every day. If you're in a bad situation, like you're going to continue to lose it, and you're not going to regain it. And interestingly enough, Anastasia, I have to be honest, I was divorced and now remarried, but in my first marriage, the same thing that you were just saying, I had always told myself I would never get divorced. And so that kept me from doing something I think that was necessary it kept me for a couple of years from doing that until it finally reached a point where I felt like I had to and I didn't have a choice. So it's the story we tell ourselves, right, will keep us stuck somewhere. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Real quick, we got to pause for the sponsor of the show for 1 minute. When we come back, though, you have what you call rapid alignment therapy, and I'm curious, how is that different from other healing modalities? What exactly is rapid alignment therapy? How can we apply it to our life? We'll talk about that in 1 minute. Are you struggling to make consistent, valuable content for yourself? Do you want to have an efficient and effective way to create content that attracts the people that you want to connect with in life, the people you want to build relationships with in business? Do you want to be the go-to authority at what you do, at what you're great at? Would it be helpful for you if you had a platform that connects you to incredible people in your industry? The kind of platform that gets you leads and lands you clients without you having to beat down anybody's door or blow up anybody's inbox. Whether you're already creating content or you're desiring to start and it's something that's been kind of burning inside of you for a while, I urge you and encourage you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Get started right now. Join the waitlist at robzwentz.com.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world globally. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, join the Connected Leaders Academy today. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JASCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So Anastasia, loving this conversation, and I'm curious about rapid alignment therapy. Can you give us some details on that? What does that, how does that differentiate itself from other forms of healing?
Yeah, rapid alignment therapy is really a result of the journey that I went on and all the work that I've done, all the incredible people that I've worked with as well, that have helped me so that I can help other people. It is a two-part session or two-part certification, if you will, and we will use hypnotherapy to work on the subconscious mind, because that is the easiest, fastest way to get to the root cause of any patterns that are no longer serving us, of any trauma that is still stored. And when we're doing that, we're essentially working on the mental and the emotional bodies. And then the second part of that is neurodynamic breath work. So neurodynamic breath work is where we release on a somatic level, because remember, our issues are stored in our tissues, as well as our energy shifts when we do that.
When you say issues in the tissues, which I've never heard that before, I like that. I'm going to use that. Our issues are in the tissues. Can you talk about what that means a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So it is an old saying, issues and tissues. When someone has issues and they're always crying, they're always, crying about things into tissues. But there's a truth behind that saying, in that trauma stores itself in the fascia, which is the connective tissue that runs throughout the whole body. So it quite literally stores itself on a physical level. And if that's not properly dealt with chronically over long periods of time, that will then develop into different diseases and ailments.
It's really interesting, isn't it? The word the word disease, dis-ease, like there's a lack of ease in the body somewhere. And when we talk about the fascia, that's really interesting too, because like these things are kind of stuck. It's just what they are. They're stuck inside of us and we have to get them out. And that, to somebody who's never heard something like that before, that might sound weird, but it makes sense. Like when you get stressed out, where does the stress go? It goes to a certain spot in you, right?
Yeah.
And you can physically identify this is where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had clients that come to me for psychosomatic issues as well. And it is so fascinating, Rob, when we work on the subconscious level, because your mind, your body knows everything. everything that you ever will need to know about your health, about your mental state, about your future, about your past is stored inside you. You are a library of information, but we have been taught not to trust our internal wisdom, and we've been taught to follow external authorities and look for information externally. But when you work with the subconscious mind, the great thing that I love about my work is that I don't need to have all the answers. I just need to facilitate my clients pulling out the answers from their body. So autoimmune diseases are all psychosomatic ways of keeping you safe, ways of dysfunctionally protecting you. But the same goes for really all diseases. And there's no doubt the link between any mental or emotional or traumatic blocks that have not been properly processed and how they will manifest on the body, on a physical plane, if they are left unhealed over long periods of time. So even things like knee issues, hip issues, the easiest thing that I can think off the top of my head has to do with a fear of moving forward. Because if you look at those joints, those are quite literally the joints that we need to move us forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you start to think about it that way, it's like, oh, I need to pay attention. We need to pay attention more. And it's, I don't know what you, so you live in Cyprus, which is in the Mediterranean Sea, correct? I think you froze a little bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. You live in Cyprus, right? Is that in the
Yeah.
Mediterranean Sea?
Suddenly everything like, oh, my asthma is a sign.
So like things are so fast paced here in the United States, right? It's like people don't get enough time to slow down. People don't get enough time to pause. On a daily basis, what does it look like for you to pause?
I do live in Cyprus in the Mediterranean. Yes.
I think we have a delay happening right now. It's like throwing us off.
Mm.
I don't know if you can, I don't think we're on like a delay, which is making it hard to, you don't know where I'm at right now in the conversation. So I'm not quite sure what to do.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can, but we're not like on the same. Okay. Are we good?
Yes, I believe we're good.
Oh, good. We're back. Perfect. All right. It caught back up. The feed got choppy. We're in the United States, things are like super fast paced. People don't take time to slow down. How do you slow down? What does that look like for you? What can people put into practice that would relieve some of this today?
Yeah, well, I'm quite extreme, Rob. So I used to live in London, which is another very fast-paced lifestyle as well. And because it wasn't in alignment with my life vision, I have moved into a village, a very, very remote village in the mountains of Cyprus. So I live in a village currently with 30 permanent residents, 30. I don't see people. I literally get to set the pace of my day and the pace of my work. And it has done wonders for my mental and my physical health, as well as the health of my relationship as well.
Wow, that's cool. So somebody who can't do that, say they can't move to a remote village in Cyprus, what do you recommend they do?
You have to create time for it. You have to carve out time for it. And whether that looks like carving out, 20 minutes a day in nature, because nature is your recharger, or weekly or every weekend, you have to simply put it into your schedule. It's not really optional. It's as important as brushing your teeth. And if you don't brush your teeth over 5 years, you're eventually going to lose them. And since I've moved up here, I used to be someone that traveled a lot, Rob. I used to go to the most beautiful locations around the world for really long periods of time as well, because my work is remote, which again was a deliberate decision to work remotely. But since I've moved up here, I haven't needed a holiday from my life in 2 years. And that tells me everything. It tells me that I'm finally living a lifestyle that is supportive of my longer vision, my longer term vision for my health, my lifestyle, my relationship.
I love that. Just that plan of putting those things into action and seeing the plan come to pass, and to know, like, you did all the traveling and you were not finding the peace that you find where you are right now, it just speaks volume for the perception that the world puts out of this is how life should be and this is how you're going to be happy, compared to what actually does bring us joy and fulfillment. And I think that we could all really benefit from taking a step back and putting those things into practice. Now, I'm curious, are you still there? Can you hear me? I think we officially lost her. She's too far away. Cyprus is too remote. Maybe she'll be back here in a second. But I'm thinking to myself, like, how do you do this on a daily basis? What do I do on a daily basis to reset myself, to give myself some space? And I struggle with this because my days can be full. My days are like today is full of stuff. But I'm going to find time for myself, at least 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I put some in this morning. Hey, you're back. Can you hear me? Nope. You're back, but you still can't hear me.
I can hear you now. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what's going on.
It's you're in a tiny little remote village in Cyprus. That's what's going on.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
I was talking about my own life while you were paused there, of like finding those 10 to 20 minutes per day to start to build in that lifestyle, right? Because people see you in the lifestyle you're living, they think, well, that's perfect, but how am I ever going to do that? But I'm sure you didn't start there. What about somebody who has a 9 to 5? They really can't just jump ship, but they've got to start little pieces at a time every day, making that progress. Whenever you're working with somebody, how do you see that progressively happening? Obviously, starting to carve out time at some point during the day, but as that progresses, how do they build more of that space into their life?
Well, for me, it really is, like you said, it's about incrementally introducing it into your day-to-day routine. So even something as simple as very intentionally having your coffee outside in the garden, or going for a walk after work or during your lunch break. There are so many ways in which we can start to incorporate this time away from devices, time away from being indoors, and time outside in nature, even if it means just taking the longer route to work, or the longer route to taking the kids to school, or walking instead of driving. We've become so used to conveniences so that we can save time, but we're giving that time somewhere else. We're not really saving any time. We're just giving it somewhere else.
Yeah. It's like we're trying to pack more into our day by saving more time, instead of that saved time being like sacred time for us to recharge. That's
exactly.
a really
At
good
what
point.
cost are you saving time? Are you really saving if it's costing you your health, if it's costing you your mental health?
Especially because that saved time. Oh, I have an extra, you find yourself, I have an extra 20 minutes. What do? Check our phone. We find a stupid, meaningless way to spend our time. So I really like that. I'm just taking a longer drive. And it's kind of just it's the way a lot of the rest of the world operates outside of America. They just move a lot slower pace.
Yeah.
And people are usually more happy when things go slower. We've gotten
especially in
ourselves,
the Mediterranean. we've kind of got a bad name for it in the rest of the world. But if you look at Italy, if you look at Spain, Greece, Cyprus, people live longer, and they don't live longer.
What were we gonna say? Uh-oh, she froze again.
People live longer in the Mediterranean, and that has to do with that slower pace of life.
Yeah, man, it's such an important message to hear, because we need to slow down. We need to calm down and slow down and find a way to put those pauses in, because I think hearing it from somebody like you too, obviously, who's successful, who's built a business of helping people in this area, and in these professions of like coaching, of helping people heal, of being somebody who gives other people advice or helps them find breakthrough, you can find yourself on a hamster wheel of never ending self-improvement, but it almost is like a frantic pace of doing it instead of a healthy pace of doing it. And so finding that peace is everything. Finding a way to give yourself that space is everything. And I pray everybody's able to do that. I pray you're able to find the pace that you want to go at. I pray you find the pace that keeps you growing, but also stable, joyful, but also still achieving. And it can be really difficult. Wow, now you're here twice. Hey, how did this happen? There we go. Did you switch the computer?
I just had to restart the browser. I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can't hear you very well. I don't know if it's if it's not your headphones. Your voice is low.
Is this better?
There you go. It's good. So I think, just this podcast as an example could be, technology can be a little bit frustrating, but at the same time, giving ourselves that pace to allow things to happen and not be frustrated about it. As Anastasia's frozen again. So I think I'll wrap this episode up. I want to make sure everybody knows that they can find Anastasia, find more about her. She has a 3-day soul manifestation code event. If you are watching, you can see the link. If you are listening, it's a bit.ly link. It's bit.ly/soul manifestation code. You can find that. Go to her page and get involved, people. Get involved in that 3-day soul manifestation code event. Oh, wait a minute. You're back again. Hey.
Talk about slowing down.
Yeah.
I don't think we can get slow with this.
I was just saying, you were like, this is exactly what we're talking about, though. Honestly, like technology doesn't go right all the time, but like being okay with slowing down, and like things happen. This is life.
Yeah.
Tell me.
I also want to mention that it's not just about slowing down for ourselves, but even with the relationships with the people that we love, slowing down and being really present in the time that we spend with each other. Because I think in this fast-paced world, we're not just losing connection with ourselves, we're losing connection with each other, which is where quite a lot of the miscommunication and the dissatisfaction in our lives comes from as well.
Yes, the breakdown of communication and saying things that need to be said, having conversations that need to be said. So it's interesting, because I feel like our society is more open than it used to be, but at the same time, things are still not getting talked about and communicated the way they need to. So now we'll talk about big or important subjects through text because somebody's afraid to call somebody or talk to them in person, right? So you're trying to have deep conversations through text, which does not work at all. Or you're trying to have possibly the confrontational conversations that need to be had in person, when all the context through text eliminates the way you're saying things and how you're trying to express yourself. It is bad. But also equally bad is people who aren't able to talk about this stuff at all. So getting ourselves to a place where we're able to have those real meaningful conversations. And like you said, if you can't have them with yourself, you're not going to be able to have them with other people. So getting yourself to a place where you can do that is huge.
Absolutely. And And also receiving support, because this is something that we learned by default. We learned how to communicate. We learned how to love by default by our parents, who learned by default by their parents. So really, it's like broken telephone that has been passed down from generation to generation. And while, yes, we are living in a time where we talk more, but are we talking deeper? This is the question. And I think that this is something that needs to be relearned. And we do that by seeking mentorship. We do that by first having someone facilitate those conversations with ourselves so that we can then become much more self-aware and more conscious in the way we communicate with other people.
Yeah, no doubt. Being intentional is so huge. And it's okay to have passive, non-intentional conversation. But at the same time, if you don't ever have intentional conversations with people and with yourself, you're missing out on such a rich and full part of life that you only can really experience by being intentional, by being super intentional about this is the point I want to make. This is the relationship I want to have with somebody. Because a lot of the times we'll have relationships and we'll let the relationship just kind of like figure itself out. But if you're intentional about what you want, you'll bring better people into your life. And also the people that you don't need to have in your life will move out of your life, and you won't need to do it. It will kind of happen naturally.
Yeah.
So I want people to
what happened with your client, that their employee left, simply by them doing the work on themselves and being mentored by you. The environment was no longer the right one or the aligned one for that particular staff member.
it very well could be. Yes, as things started to change, things were brought to the surface that led them to like have to go. Yeah, that could be very true. I want to let people know. So I talked about this a minute while you were breaking up there, but now that you're back, you can tell us about it. The 3-day Soul Manifestation Code event. I gave out the website. What can they expect if they go there?
Yeah, thank you so much. 3 days with me where we are going to talk about our unconscious desires and how they will always outweigh your conscious efforts and your conscious desires. I also teach one of the most amazing tools which I use inside my coaching containers, the truth exercise. So how to get to the root cause of any unconscious brain patterns that you're still carrying and what functional purpose they still serve. And then on the 3rd day, of course, I will let you know how you can continue to work with me inside my 8-week program, The Art of Aligned Living, or if this is the type of work that you feel called to do and to help other people to facilitate and become a rapid alignment therapist, there will be an invitation for that as well.
Amazing. So if that sounds like something that would interest you, be a passion of yours, make sure you check that out with Anastasia. It's bit.ly/soul manifestation code. You can go there now and get involved. This has been a wonderful conversation, even with the tech issues. Still really enjoyed talking to you, Anastasia. Is there anything that you want to leave the audience with before we sign off?
I would really just like to invite them to listen to their internal guidance, to start dialoguing with it, and to trusting their first instinct. The first instinct is often the initial guidance that we then override with our logic and with our rationale.
Yeah, we ruin with our own logic, right? That's we talk ourselves out of the right things. Yeah, right. Cool. Amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Another amazing true testimony of breakthrough. Until next time, this has been the Unstuck Movement.